doll making team of Hallman and Lennox. I've been doing these classes for about 2 years out of demand. All the collectors who have bought our dolls are so interested in how I did the character dolls that I do that they said to me, why don't you give a class? So we've been doing the classes and we've been having a wonderful time. And this is the opportunity for us to be able to give you the class in a VCR form. Now how we're going to be doing this is that we're going to be talking a lot about the clays themselves and the technique that I've developed to help you be able to make a nice and wonderful heirloom for yourself. The most important thing about the class is the fact that this is a class in creativity as much as it's a class in sculpting. So the most important thing is to have fun. The technique itself I devised for my own use and is for my students as well. And the reason that I devised this technique is because when we sit down to do any doll making or sculpting project, we tend to want to do the whole thing all at once. And this system is a very easy system. Anyone can do that. So if you feel that you cannot make a doll or you've never sculpted before in your life and you have no talent, this is absolutely the video for you. You're going to have a wonderful time. Now how the tape is going to work is we're going to do the class just exactly the way I do the classes when I do classes for people in the whole room, except this is going to be a class with just you and I. What I suggest you do is to take the tape, watch each segment of the tape. I'll tell you when the tape's going to stop. Stop the tape at that point and work on the part that we're working on. Then turn the tape back on when you're satisfied. Do it as many times as you need to do that until you've mastered each section of the sculpting process. Also, we're going to be showing some tips on the screen in the course of the tape that will talk about some things that make it a lot easier to work with Super Sculpey and or any Polymer clays. I'll talk a lot about Polymer clays. I'm going to talk an awful lot about the clays themselves and what to expect from them in terms of being a collector or a maker of dolls. I'm not going to talk very much about porcelain dolls. That's where we started, my sister and I, and chose to do one-of-a-kind dolls because of the fun and the aspect of making a new creation every time. I think you're going to have a lot of fun today. So we're going to get started and have a ball. Don't be at all stressed about this. Have a wonderful time. This is a delight to do, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy yourself immensely. Need is Super Sculpey. This can be bought in any art store or a paint store with an art department. If they don't have it, ask them to get it for you. I use Super Sculpey in the classes, although my sister and I, at this point, use most exclusively Ceranet for our dolls, which we'll show you later at the end of the video. But Super Sculpey is what I teach the classes, and it's a very easy medium to work with, and that's what we're going to be using in this class. You'll need some very fine sandpaper or a sanding block. This is a 3M sanding block, very fine. I like that very much because it gets into contours of the piece. You'll need some sculpting tools. Now, I use dental tools. These are very nice to use. They're very inexpensive. Your own dentist and you might have some. They'd throw them away after a time, so ask him or her to sell them to you. It's the nicest tools to use for this medium. Toothpicks are very handy. We'll see as we work a little further on the smaller points because we work with the smaller. The tools used for plasticine or Win are normally too big to use for smaller character dolls. I also use, these are Judith Howe eyes. These are porcelain eyes. The reason I use porcelain eyes is because they bake without any problems. Glass eyes or acrylic eyes will often melt and burst in the oven in this process. So these, we'll talk more about Judith Howe eyes as we work with them. Now the first thing we're going to need to do is to mold a simple shoulder plate. I'm going to show you this. If you want to take it for the other camera, to take a good look at this camera. Perfect. Basically, it's just take the material, squash it down to about 1/4 of an inch, and make a small shoulder plate. This is a 3/8 dowel. I use that and put that inside the shoulder plate itself. So I'll show you again how that's made. I just went ahead and made that ahead of time because it's not much easier. You can see that pretty well, I think. Now, the dowel will go inside your doll body with hot glue, and this can be hot glued on. There's no need to drill holes like you do for a porcelain doll to sew that. If you just hot glue this on your doll body, that'll take care of it, and the stick itself will hold it straight. Now, this is aluminum foil shaped in the shape of a head. Can you see that? This is the front part. This is the side and the back part of the head. You can see the back and the forehead here. Now make that aluminum foil very, very stiff. In other words, push that way down. I use the table and roll on the table. Can you see? And the reason we use aluminum foil, now 5 or 6 years ago, I used all kinds of different things. I used brass balls and wood, and talking to a few artist friends, this is the best thing to use because it heats the clay inside and out. Now just place the wood dowel inside so you said the shoulder plate inside the aluminum foil. That's going to be our neck. This adds strength. Super Sculpting is a softer material than other materials, so the wood will help to keep the doll strong. We have the shoulder plate, we have the dowel itself, and then we have the aluminum foil head shape. And you can make that aluminum foil any shape you want to make it. I'm looking at the, good. Can you see that? In this case, now I want to show you what a doll we've completed earlier. They'll give you an idea of the finished result. You see the stick is in here, the shoulder plate all combined, see, all combined with the doll. All right? All right. Now, the next process is to take the Super Sculpting. Now, one of the mistakes that people make with any polymer clay is that they don't spend the time kneading and molding the product. Any clay coming out of the package is not completely mixed, even though people would think so. And that's why you get the cracks and the problems with clay that you often hear in terms of the rumors associated with polymer clays. So if you well knead, now what I do is usually the night before I'll knead up a pound or so to work on the dolls, and that makes it much easier because I just start right away the next day. So we're going to take a piece of the clay, just work a piece off. Get used to the feel of the clay. That's one of the most important aspects of this. Need just a little bit more. And you're going to just knead that clay until it's pliable. Now don't worry about if it gets soft on you. A lot of people have very loving hands, so they get very, very hot. If you have hands like that, you should be a masseuse because they're very healing. Another thing to remember is look for little black spots or streaks in the clay when you're working with it. Now what that is oils from your face and your hair. People don't realize they touch their face and hair very often when they're concentrating or being creative or working. That's an absolute bane to this material. It will leave little oil streaks in the clay. Now when that happens, go wash your hands. And be sure to wash your hands with dish soap, not Dove or Ivory soap or any of those soaps, because they contain oils. And they'll just streak again. So Palmolive or Joy or something like that, which is, don't mean to make a commercial out of this, but use a dish soap. Now what I'm doing is making a very thin pizza. I have a little black in there from my hands. Do you see that? It's a very thin pizza shape. Now a lot of artists will tell you to do it in quadrants. I don't believe that that's necessary because there's more chances of having air bubbles in the piece, and there's no need to do it, and I'll show you. So then you take your shoulder plate. I want to show you that again from all sides. It's just the Super Sculpting material made in a U shape. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this pie that I've made, and I'm going to put it right over the top of the head. Do you see? And I'm going to pull that down. Now I call this process snowball. What I want you to do is when people begin to work with any kind of clay and they haven't worked with them before, even if they've worked with them before, they tend to want to put their fingertips in it. It's almost like wanting to touch wet paint. So don't do that. Go ahead and learn, and you just palm the clay like a snowball and force the clay up against the aluminum foil. You see that? We're just going to force it down using our thumb and index finger and my palm. And the material, if you'll notice, sort of melts underneath your hands. That's part of the properties of this clay. Now, see what I'm doing? I'm making a neck. I'm getting all of the air bubbles out that way by forcing it down. Okay. Okay. Now don't make the neck too thin. Super Sculpting is not a particularly strong product in terms of it being thin. It works very well if it's reasonably thick. I like to keep the process down to a 1/4 inch or a little bit more. Now, this is the technique. Now I want you to pay attention closely to this because you're going to be using this a lot. The only 2 fingers I use to sculpt with are my thumb and my index finger. What I'm going to do is take my index finger against the bottom of this already cooked plate. Well, by the way, I didn't tell you that. Take this and cook it in the oven to 240 degrees for about an hour. I should have told you that earlier, but since you do that now. Now, I'm going to take that down. I'm going to put my index finger at the bottom. I'm going to take my thumb. I'm going to just let it melt the clay right down and push it right down onto the shoulder plate. So in essence, I'm going to laminate with a layer. Do you see that? Do that on all sides. Now, a lot of artists don't use shoulder plates, but I like them because you can put, we'll do later, we'll put a shoulder on them. You can make them anatomically correct for a woman or a woman fairy or an old man or an old woman. Now, we're going to be making a character doll, which basically means a doll that you wouldn't see in a porcelain. We're going to do something that's funny and full of expression. So if you're starting off and you want to make a Father Christmas or an old woman or an old man, this is the class for you. Now, I have a fairly smooth doll. You can see I don't need to worry too much about smoothness in the back because it will be wigged later. But you can, if you want to do that, take the time to do that. Now, I'd like you to stop the tape and then work on coming up with this look. And we'll come back and we'll continue from there. A good point for me to bring up right now is go ahead and run all the way through the video and then come back and start. Again, you'll have a better idea where we're going. Okay, does your doll look like that? Chances are it's very lumpy and full of fingerprints and you're very frustrated. Well, don't do that. We're going to show you another technique. Now, this is a technique that I think makes a difference between a professional doll and an amateur doll, if you see any dolls out there in your doll shows in your area. Now, here's the technique. I want you to if you're right-handed, take your right hand, and you're only going to use your thumb and your index finger and any smoothing properties. These fingers, just put them away somewhere, or double them up and put gloves on or something, but keep them away from your doll. And what we're going to do is we're going to work 2 techniques. We're going to take our thumb, and what you're going to do is you're going to put your thumb on the clay until you feel the clay give a little bit under your finger, and then you're just going to let it very slowly, with a very light touch, smooth out the clay. You cannot take enough time to learn this technique. If you need to take all day on this part of the tape, I want you to do that, because that's the difference between a very professional looking doll and a doll that frankly is not quite so professional looking. And again, that same technique of patting when you work up to the top of the head, just pat off with your palm. The same technique in the reverse with your index finger, let the clay melt under your finger, do you see? And then it's just then lightly, very light touch now, smooth out the doll. So you should have a fairly smooth product at this point. Do you see? The head is, now if you go to the back, there's a good chance. You see some of the roughness back here, the same technique. I let the clay roll under my thumb and very, very, very lightly just smooth that clay out. And like I say, spend some time at this part. In the class, we spend an hour working just this technique, because once you master this, the rest is easy. Do you see? Now, I want to show you another little tool. This is just a fabric brush. It's a bristle, a game white bristle, which is commonly used for doing fabric painting. It's a stiff brush. This is another, if you have a hard time with your fingers in that particular technique, you're going to use this tool you can take the brush and use that brush to smooth out the rough spots in the clay in any of the processes that we do for the rest of the video. Do you see how nice that is? Now it leaves little lines, don't worry about that, but it does help to smooth the surface up. Okay, so work to get that particular look. If you haven't got the smoothness to it, just keep learning to work that clay until you get that look. Okay, now we're going to set the eyes. Now, these eyes are porcelain eyes as opposed to glass or acrylic. And the reason I use them, one, is there's no post on the back. This isn't a porcelain doll, so there's no need to line it up quite the same way. Although we have a lining up problem with this type of doll, and I'll show you how to take care of that. So the first thing we're going to do with our piece is to look at the line of the head. And we're going to draw an access mark. This is going to be just a detail to show us where to place the eye. And I want to show you what we do. In the center of the head, draw, I call that a pivot line. And I want you to pay attention. If your head is slightly cocked to an angle, make sure that that line is, actually I just realized that's not quite in the center, so let me do that again. We're going to bisect the head in two, all right? This side being equal to this side. Okay, now I'm going to show you a chart. Now this is the bisectional line represented on the drawing here, kind of a funny drawing. And how we place the eyes, it depends entirely on you. So let me just show you a couple of alternatives. If you take the porcelain doll formula, which is equal distance between the temple and the nose bridge, setting the eye in the middle, that produces a very nice doll. It produces a little elf character or a grandfather or grandmother. It's a very non-offensive positioning. If you want to make it a little bit more comical, you can place the eyes in between the halfway point and the point of the nose, any place closer to the nose. And that produces a character doll that's a little dumb, perhaps. If you place the eyes toward the outside, it looks a little insectal, or maybe of a troll, or a character or a fairy that's not quite human looking. So if you're going to work with fantasy, if we're going to do that today, experiment with this. Make some more dolls and use the different eye settings and different placements to see what kind of reaction you get. Now, how to place the eye on the whole part of the face, again, that's a matter of preference. If you take the line 1/2 the distance between the top of the head and where the chin would be, and less, you're going to produce a more adolescent looking doll, or even a baby. The farther down you go, the more infant-like the piece will appear, because it'll have a very high forehead, much like babies have. If you put it lower down, it becomes a very endearing piece because we respond to the way a baby looks. If the eyes were placed 1/4 distance down, for example, like this one would show, then you could have a Father Christmas or a wizard or a witch or someone a little bit more severe looking or a little stern, with a higher placement and a longer distance between the nose and the mouth for bearding or whatever. This is an interesting look for, we used to do wizards quite a bit years ago, and that was the placement of the eyes I used at that time for all the Father Christmas and the wizards that we made early. If you actually cut the exactly 1/2, then you get a little boy or a little girl or a pretty girl, and you can see how that placement would look excuse me, easier to work with. All right. Let's go back to our doll. Wonderful. So I think today, I just realized that's still not quite. So take the time to do this right, like as I'm doing it. I want to make sure that I get this exactly. That showed up, didn't it? Do you see that? Good. I'm going to go ahead and do my access line a little bit lower. so that I can produce a character a little bit more endearing, like a child. You see? And I'm also going to place it approximately 1/2 distance. That's going to be my eye placement. Can you see? A little bit more over here. Again, take your time. Okay? Now, the placement of one of these eyes, you notice, has a flat back, and this is very, very important. I want you to see this. Now, if you look at that eye, you'll see that it's actually a little bit low. It's not exactly even in the eye, so I have to take into consideration that the iris is a little higher up on the eye. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place that eye in the clay so it's looking straight ahead at me. Okay? I'm going to take the other eye and I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to place the eye in the same position on the other side. Now, if you notice, I'm pressing it in from the side, and I'll show you why we do that. Now, you want to look at the eye to make sure that they're lined up from the front. Can you see that? And that they're equal distance from one side to the other. Okay. Also, look at the eye from the top and bottom. Can you see the iris here? Do you see how that has to be level with the other iris? That one's slightly down. Can you see that? Just the line, the dark lines. And see how straight they are from here to here and the other side? Okay. I'm going to make sure that, again, from the top, do you see? Now my iris line is straight. Now see, it's not quite straight. See how that line is straight right here to this other side right here in the line, so that the eyes are looking straight ahead. Now if you notice, this one's sticking out a little bit far. So I want to bring that in a little bit. Now, do you see? So now now look, do you see how this one's up a little bit? So I want to push that down just a little bit so that it's exactly in the same line of the other eye. Now I think that looks pretty good. Do you see? It's exactly right at all angles. Now look at from this angle, you can see that this is down a little bit. So I want to lift that up. See? And then the doll from the front, the eye should be looking in the same direction. Now you can experiment with this and move the eyes around to have them look off to the side or whatever. Now I'm going to just make sure that all the eye is in front of me. Do you see? Don't worry about the roughness at this point. Now, if my eye is all lined up, I'm going to just look real quick to make sure that it is. One's down a little bit from the other. Again, take your time. There's nothing worse than having an eye, when you get all done, having the eyes not lined up. So take the time to make sure that they're lined. I want to make sure that I'm using the monitor to help me. You don't have a monitor at home, obviously, but one thing you can do is to take a mirror and look at the piece in the mirror. And that'll help you see. In my case, I have a little astigmatism. That'll help you see if everything is balanced by putting it in the mirror and then looking at the mirror image of the thing. So do that all the way through the process. So that looks pretty good. I'm pretty pleased with that. Okay? And then we'll go on to the next part. So stop right there and get your eyes placed. The porcelain eyes, you can also use marbles or roll a white female or a clear female and make your eyes, painted eyes is fine too, but I just prefer the porcelain eyes for the look because they're more natural. Now, go ahead and use that little technique we talked about with your finger and smooth all around. So it's all nice. So you got that? So we have a nice look, I think, there. Don't be upset by the way the dolls look in the middle of this process, because they're going to look like ducks and dinosaurs and everything. Okay? Now, you're going to take a small piece of clay, and the next thing we're going to do is just make a round piece, and we're going to roll that into a sausage. And that sausage you want to have become the distance across the eyes. See, on both sides. Do you see? Okay, and then we're going to flatten the sausage with our fingers. And this is going to be, surprisingly enough, is going to be the, I'm going to place it over the top of the eye. This is going to be the first lid of my character's eyes. And you're going to just flatten that right against the eye, just by pressing it in. And then take that same technique we did before, and you're going to smooth and blend that material right into the other material. That same, and you see where my other hand caused me problems there, so I want to make sure I don't have that problem. One of the ways to do it is to leave it on the tabletop. And I'm just going to smooth it. Can you see? I'm just smoothing that right in with my thumb and my finger. Okay. Now and make that a smooth transition. I'll show it to you when we're all done. Don't press so hard that your eyes bulge out. See, we want to have it, this is really just an eyelid. And it's a way of filling in the forehead to give us our very natural human shape for a character doll. Now, do you see? It's all we're going to do is just work that all in now. We're going to do that same technique of palming, and then rubbing our hands and our fingers very smoothly across the doll. And what we end up with is just a very thin, I want you to see how thin that lid is, see? It's very thin across the eye. It doesn't have to be thick. It's just an eyelid that'll give us a very natural look when we're done. And again, don't worry about the appearance of the doll at this point. Just trust the technique I'll show you, and then you'll be able to do the fine-tuning later. Okay? Now we're going to just smooth that all out. So that's the look we want to see. Now you can move the eyelid around. You can have it be sad by, I'm going to make this very neutral, but if you were to bring the eyelid down this way, you'd have a very droopy sort of eye, like for an older person. If you were to bring the eyelid down this way, you'd get sort of an angry look. But in this case, we're going to make a very nice, and I would suggest you do that until you get the idea of what the eye is. Now, the little tool I have is a little scoop tool, and all I'm going to do is, in those little tight places that I can't get my finger, I'm just going to use that to smooth out on the sides, see? On the sides here. I'm going to use that little tool to get those areas nice and smooth so that all my blends. Okay, now you see how nice that is? Now here from the side, look. Okay. From the side, you see how the forehead here is nice and gradual from the way I smoothed it in? You want to see that. My left hand's doing damage again, so don't worry about that. Will happen. Just always keep snowballing your piece. If your hands are very hot and you're having a hard time because of that, take a bowl of ice water and put it on the table next to you and dip your hands in it just to get that blood out of your hands. And then go down and take a course in masseuse course, because you're obviously a healer and didn't even know it. All right, can you see how sparkly those eyes? It's going to be a beautiful doll when we're done. These are 24 karat gold eyes I'm using. Aren't they fabulous? Good. Okay, so stop and turn off the tape and try to get that look. Frustrated yet? Well, don't be. Just keep working this part. If you have to keep working this first part of the tape is very, very important. So work this first part over and over until you get it. If it frustrates you, put the piece down and come back to it tomorrow or later on in the day when you're not so frustrated. Okay, do you see? Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to build a little sinus. And if you could cut to my face a minute, I'll show you what we're going to be talking about. Now, what we're going to be doing is we're going to build this section up to the upper jaw, underneath the eyes, without the nose. We're just going to build up that piece. So if you go back to the piece, I'll show you. We're going to be putting the piece in. Basically, I'm going to draw it for you. We're going to be building this sinus area right there. And we're going to be building the upper jaw right here and right here. And I'll show you what that looks like. I'm going to take a piece of clay and we're going to just roll it around. Do you see about the size? Okay? And I'm going to just build the upper jaw with my finger. And I'm going to extend it. Now, you see what this is the side, this is the front, from the side, this is the side of the face. This part here is the jaw, and this is inside the mouth, if you can visualize that right here. Do you see it? Look at the shape again. It's a triangle. Do you see how it's rounded? Do you see the roundness? It's rounded like that, just like a jaw would be. Here's the mouth and the back piece. And we're going to see it. Anybody, can you see that really? So we're getting that shape. It's very difficult for people to visualize this spatially, but that's the look you want. It's literally the mouth, because we're going to put the teeth right on top of here, and we'll show you when we put it on. So now I'm going to put that right on the piece. Looks like a little duck. Okay? Now from all sides, do you see? And this is this section now. Look from the side. See the side of the face? It's actually becoming more human-like, although you can't see from there's no bottom jaw. It's like a little duck. See how it sets in there? Okay, now I'm going to take my tool, whether I have a wood tool or a smoothing tool, then I'm going to just work that in. You can use your fingers, if you have small fingers. Also, if you haven't noticed, if you have long fingernails, how difficult it is to work with clay with long fingernails. So you may have to make a decision about that, whether you're going to cut your fingernails or not. Okay, now I'm going to just take my finger, that same tiresome technique that we learned in the beginning of the tape, and we're going to smooth that all in. Okay? And now look right here. So, inside the mouth, I'm just going to go ahead and just blend that into. Now, a rule, you never try to add anything on, although you can cook Cernet or Super Sculpey or Fimo many, many times. People don't realize that in the oven, in each of the processes, which we will do also in this tape, you'll discover. The rule is to never try to make any additional piece more than 1/4 inch. But you can fudge that a little bit to like obviously this is a little bit thicker than 1/4 inch, but from here to here it's not more than like about 1/2 inch. So this will actually cook pretty well through without being any kind of a problem. Now, so you just see the shape. Okay, so now stop the tape and try to get that look. Now it depends on how you want your doll to look. This is extended face, so this would be wonderful for an L for a small child, which I'm going to do today. You can also make this longer and flatter this way, and that could be a long-faced wizard or anything you want. You can actually shorten it. You can actually extend it even further for a troll if you wanted the face to be way off. Okay? Now, what we're going to do now, this is Fimo, and this is the 01, which is a translucent Fimo. Sculpey 3 has a translucent white, and also Cernet has a translucent white. And what we're going to do, this is a very interesting thing, we're going to put teeth on our character so that the teeth show. And in this case, I'm going to give him large buck teeth in the front to have some fun. Now, you can make them smaller or bigger depending on how whimsical you want to be, if you want to make children with small teeth. But the technique is fairly simple. We're going to just pinch off a small round piece and pinch off one about the exact same size for the front 2 teeth. Now you can see those are a little bit different size. Okay, all right. So that they're even in size, approximately. Now, watch this real close. This is so simple, and it's such a struggle for people. And what you're going to do is you're going to pinch it. See, it's flattened now. I'm going to pinch it on top so it's a triangle, and I'm going to push the bottom so that it's flat. Do you see? And I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to pinch it. I'm going to pinch it across the side, and I'm going to flatten the bottom so it's flat. And I should have, let's see, can you see these here? Let me move these into the camera. Okay. Having to watch the monitor to make sure that you're seeing this. So there's my two front teeth. My side teeth are going to be smaller. Same technique. I'm just going to push it, flatten it. So there's my little small tooth. And I make 6 teeth. That's usually enough that the mouth will cover it. I'm going to pinch the same way, and I'm going to pull flatten the top. Now you can spend a lot of time on these and make them separately. I know other artists that make all their teeth separately and cook them separately so that they're hard and they're easier to put in for them. And there's my 6 teeth. Okay, so work on your teeth right there and get all 6 of your teeth set up. Okay, we'll cut away. The teeth now. We're going to take, this is a little tool with a little cup end on it. You can use anything similar to that. And we're going to go ahead and make the indentions. Is that a word? Indentions? I think so. And we're going to make the little placement for the teeth. Now I'm going to take my large tooth and I'm going to just set it right inside that little spot. One of my collectors, for my sister and I, is a dentist, and he likes to we make pretty girls with enormous overbites, and he just loves those dolls. And then get back on the camera here. Okay, I got one more to set on each side. Now you can make this as accurate as you want to make them. If you've got a background in dentistry, make them perfect. Get back on the camera again. I'm being told that I'm off camera. All right. Now, you see? From the side. I'm purposely doing these very conservatively. You can make huge front teeth. You can take one of the teeth out, like a child that's missing a tooth. That's kind of fun too. Have fun with this. This is just nothing better in the world, at least for me, is to sit and sculpt a doll. What a privilege. So cut away and work on that. At this point, we're going to go ahead and cook the doll, or bake the doll. Cooking is not it's a bad word. We're going to bake the doll in the oven, and you're going to bake it at 240 degrees for about 25 minutes. That's a good workable amount of time. And then after that, we'll come back and we'll begin to do the finished processes on the doll. Next thing we do, now while that's cooking, now a lot of people ask me what to cook the pieces in. I'll give you some tips on that. You can cook it, I cook mine in Pyrex glass cooking ware. The reason for that is that it cooks evenly, but if you're going to use that Pyrex, don't use it to cook food in, because this is, by the way, basically a PVC material, and such is not good to eat. So if you're going to take a piece of Pyrex, go down to your thrift store and buy a piece of old Pyrex, and then use that to cook your pieces in and keep it for yourself for that purpose. Now the next thing we're going to do is hands. While that's cooking, we're going to cook that for about, like I say, 25 minutes. So if you cut away to my clay here a second, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make 2, and this is just mathematics, and I'm going to show you it's a question of volume. We're going to be making 2 balls the same size, in which case this is not, so we'll go ahead and take one from the other until we get them the same size. Not quite yet. That's going to be our palm and our forearm. Now put those aside. Now, we're going to make our little fingers. Now if you look at your hand, this finger and this finger have the same size and volume. So you're going to need to make 4 small clay balls to represent these fingers. So we're going to take, first of all, 2 small ones. Now in comparison to the size, you can see that's going to be our little fingers. Then we're going to take 4, approximately a third more volume than the little finger, and we're going to make 4 of those. Now it's always good to work your hands, do both hands at the same time. If we can see those 2 right there, that's 2. There's my little ones. So that you can match up all the volume of the hands together. In other words, you won't have one hand bigger than another. So now I have 4 fingers, and then my middle finger is going to be that much bigger than those 2. Okay? And do it like this so that you don't lose track of yourself. So I have my 2 small fingers, let's point that, 2 small fingers here, 4 of the same size, and 2 larger fingers. Now I'm not going to do the thumb yet. I find that if I cook this section first and put the thumb on later, I'm much happier with the result. Now here's the technique. I'm going to take it, I'm going to roll it between my fingers. Do you see that? Like a little mushroom. Now I'm creating the wrist and part of the forearm. See? Then I'm going to pinch this top part, and I'm going to make the palm of the hand, this section of the hand, without the fingers. And I'm going to raise one section higher than the other. See how this goes down at an angle? Now look at that. And look at the shape all the way around. Okay, do you see? It's like the palm. And don't get frustrated. It just takes practice to get this. I mean, I've done this enough for so many years now that this is fairly simple for me. It'll become simple for you too. Now I'll do the same thing again. I'll roll it between my fingers. And I'm going to push down, and I'm going to make that palm. Now you want to make those palms the exact same size. So I'm going to raise one side. Okay, do you see? Now there's my wrist. Making sure they're the same. Make sure they're the same thickness. And look at the shape. There again, you want to make them fairly thin. See? And there's my shape. Now, I'm going to take these small, I'm going to start with my little fingers, and I'm just going to roll them out. I'm just going to roll it out like a sausage. And I'm going to make my fingers. Okay? And I'm going to place that on the low side on the top. So I'm going to put it right on the top, just like I'm right on the top of the thing. I'm going to go ahead and, do you see that? I'm going to roll off the same. I'm going to work both hands at the same time to guarantee that I don't mess up, that they're the wrong size together or different sized hands, see? And I put that on like that. And I take my smoothing tool and I just blend that in on the side. This is such an easy way to make hands, and they're very, very nice looking when they're done. And very real looking. You can make them as real as you want. I have students in the class who spend a lot of time with their hands putting on the knuckles and but just for a little Father Christmas or little lady who wears purple. This is a nice way to do it. And I'm going to smooth that off. I'm going to go on the inside and I'm going to just roll that up on the inside. take my finger and I'm going to smooth it out, right, see? And I'm just going to go ahead and do that all the way through. I'm going to add my other finger. Do you see? And I'm going to go ahead and blend those all in. The same way. Off to the side. In my class, all we do is we do the hands, and the main theme on doing hands is practice, 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 practice. Because it's so much in the shape of the hand where the expression is. So we're going to cut away now, and then I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of the fingers on, and you will too. So turn off the tape. Okay, so I've been working away at my hands. Now if you notice, the same technique, we put these little fingernails in. I want you to see that. See the little fingernails? And that's just that clear fimo again. We make a little indentation just like we did with the teeth, and we squeeze it and we just put them in there. That's kind of a nice touch, I think. Look how nice that looks. See? Now, you can get as detailed as you want to get on the hands. If you turn the hands over, you know, we can go ahead and put our little crease lines in with our tool, see? You can make them as simple as you want to make them. Porcelain doll hands, for the most part, are very simple because of the mold process. So you can get real elaborate with this. And all I'm going to do here is I'm going to make a little indentation. See? We haven't put the thumb on yet, but we will. Now here's another little trick too, and I want you to pay attention to this. Take the fingertips and just roll them up. If you look at your own fingers, that's what they look like. Do you see? There's a little roll up to our finger, and just makes it much nicer. Now we're going to cook these and position the wrist nicely, and also the fingers. You can actually bend the fingers. Have fun with this. Experiment with this with hands. You can bend the fingers up and you can bend them around tools. You can have them do anything you need them to do, and just sort of play with that a little bit. So I'm going to bend this wrist off to the side like that a little bit. That's kind of a nice look. And this one we're going to go ahead and I'll bend that one down. See, like that? And then I'll go ahead and move this finger up. Look. See? You can even roll them down like that. And when you cook them bottom, place them like this in your position, and put the wrist up against the side of your cooking utensil, your cooking pot. That's silly, isn't it? Your cooking device, whatever you're using. Now, another thing you need to do is go ahead and drill a little hole in the forearm for your armature. See? And if you'd like, you can even go ahead and make a little tie indentation if you want to do that. You don't have to do that, but that's certainly something you can do. Okay, so we'll cut away, and you go ahead and cook those. Okay, now we want to go ahead and put the lower jaw on. So we're going to go ahead and take a little bit of clay. Now this is real important. Now this is an interesting little look too. This is going to be the lower jaw. So all we're going to do, we're not going to worry about a chin. We're just going to build a lower jaw. And then this section will be where the teeth are going to go. So you look at the shape of that. This is the inside of the mouth. Do you see the shape? Flat backed. And that's just going to go right on there. See? So you see the size and the shape you're going to need. So you pull that piece off. In the same way that we made the other teeth, we're going to go ahead and set 6 teeth on the bottom jaw. And I've already made them. You can't see them. I'll put them up where you can see them. They're already the little pieces, the round pieces. I'm just going to go ahead and squish them and flatten the top and put them right in. The same way that we did on the top. And don't squeeze those too hard. Let them be kind of thick. It's kind of fun. You know, a lot of my students will squeeze them real hard and make them very thin, and they're very unsatisfied with the look. So if they're real heavy like that, so see, I made a little denture. See? Now, I'm going to go ahead and just put that right underneath, and make sure that they're behind the teeth, see, in the front. So the top teeth are actually protruding a little bit. And I'm going to take that little same method, I'm going to blend that all in, all the way around. If you want to put a little tongue in there, you can. And all you have to do is just place a tongue in there. Put that in there. And this is the time to do that. Now it's going to close that mouth up. And that's that. Now, we're going to cook that. I'm sorry, bake. I keep saying cook. We're going to bake that at 240 degrees for about 15 minutes is all I'm going to need to do to worry about that. So let's cut away while you bake that piece right there. Get the piece out of the oven. And now this is a little 3M block. It'd be a good idea to go ahead and sand down the teeth. Get your fingerprints off them and make them smooth them out. And also just give a real light sand over the whole piece so that our connecting pieces will adhere well. Okay. Don't worry about the dust or the white. Now we're going to put on lips. And this isn't difficult. It's just a small piece, and you're going to roll it out. Okay, see? And then you're going to go ahead and pinch one edge and leave one edge thick for the lip. And you're going to go ahead and put the bottom lip on, okay, first. Okay. We'll go ahead and blend that in using that same technique. Light touch on the finger. Don't worry about a chin yet, and don't worry about shaping the lips. So then we're going to go ahead and put the top lip on. Same method. Small ball, rolling it out, flattening one edge, and putting that overlapping the bottom on the side, see? Now I know it looks like a frog or a little dinosaur or something, but don't worry about that. That'll all make sense in a bit. This method is almost forensic in its approach, but you build the structure of the character first. So don't worry about the lips. I know it looks funny. Okay, you can shut off the tape now and do just that there. That's all you need to do. The thing we're going to do is we're going to put on the cheek. Now, how big or how small you make the cheeks entirely up to you. In this case, I'm going to make a little bit fuller cheek to make a little elf character or Santa character. And just take two balls. Again, we're going to be working the symmetry of the face, so we're going to be working with two sides the same size. So this is a little bit too big, so that they balance. Now, the shape is important here. I want to keep the roundness, this being the front part of the cheek, and I'm going to bring it right down. I'm actually going to build, I'm going to put it right in here. It's going to come underneath. I'm going to build the jawline and the cheek line in one piece. So the shape comes underneath the eye and across, and that's the shape. And that's going to sit right underneath Can you see? Oh, look at that again. That's the shape. It's going to come right underneath the eye and around the mouth. And I want to make sure not to flatten the front part right here. I want that to come forward, creating the cheek line. If you'd come to my face a minute, I'll show you. We're going to be building this section and right down along the jawline. This is what we're building in here with, see right here and down along the jawline. Okay? So I'm going to make the same shape again and the opposite way. So it's that same, so you see how I'm just pulling that clay. I'm leaving it round in the side. See? Okay, and that's going to sit in the same position on the opposite side. And they should balance. Okay. See how I built the cheek up, and notice that I'm not removing from the side. I'm keeping it forward in the front. In the classes, a lot of people tend to want to flatten that right here. Don't do that. Allow that to be nice and full up in the front. Now, I take that and I just go ahead and blend that in with that same technique. It almost starts to be a doll now. You start to see the face take shape. Now remember, you're building your doll. You're not copying me in the sense of making a doll. You do what you want to do using the methods. And for the first time with this tape, you want to just go along doing what I'm doing as best you can. That's fine. But don't be frustrated if the piece doesn't look exactly like the one I'm doing. That's what's different about the technique. We're teaching you the technique, not the how-to. The technique will serve you for any reason. And we'll show some dolls at the end of the video that my sister and I have done to show you how the technique holds true with anything you make. Now, I have a scoop tool. And all I'm going to do is blend that very easily into the lip area, see? I'm going to blend it right in here. Down along the lip here, I'm going to blend it underneath. Don't worry about the chin, we're going to be adding that in. And the size of the chin and the size of the cheeks, if you wanted to make those cheeks smaller or bigger or fuller, or not as full, the technique is still the same. You just change the shape of those pieces you're putting in. Now bring it in around the eye. Can you see that? Just smooth it right in tight on the eye. Don't make a ridge there. Make it real tight. It's natural to be up against, the skin is up against the eye. Now if you have a mirror, a household mirror in the house, and go ahead and use the mirror. From this point on, you can make expressions from your own face, just like a cartoonist does when they work a piece. Now, see my little teeth and my lips are there. I'm beginning to take shape. All right. So I'll let you stop at this point, and then work up to that, getting this look with the doll. Now remember, the cheeks don't have to be as wide or as full. But this is the look you want to see at that point. But he got that idea? Looking kind of cute, isn't he? I don't know quite what he's going to be yet, but I think I almost see a little elfin boy or a Santa Claus. Could be anything at this point. And that's what's so fun about making character dolls, that the faces sort of come out to you. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the brow line in right above the top of the eye. Again, using that same technique we used on the lips and making the original eye, we're going to take a small piece of clay. I'm going to roll it out. I'm going to pinch the one side only. Do you see the thickness there and the thinness on the other side? Okay, now I'm going to roll that right across the top of the eye and wave it. So can you see? And then I'm going to bring it up on the other side, and I'm going to do that. Now that's going to give me my brow line. Now there'll be another brow line on top of this one. But this is just to give us the shape of the ridge line on the eye. I'm going to go ahead and smooth that in. If you want to make a little elf character or a funny little old man, you can actually leave that just like that. And I'm going to do that. If you wanted to, you could also take your tool and blend that area here in. But I kind of like it, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do here. I'm going to go ahead and make a little bit of an expression. Now watch what happens when all you do is when you just move that little bit of clay. Look at that, see? I'm going to do the same thing over here. Now moving that around, look. See, I already have expression. So, experiment with your own piece, how you want that expression to look. It can be angry by bringing this inside down low and then up on the top. But I kind of like the endearing quality of that little piece like that. Sort of already see the expression sort of becoming already on the piece. Okay, now I want you to stop and play with that and have a good time working with that. So now, everybody got that? I hope that was fun for you. I hope you played along with the expressions, move those brows around and have some fun. Because it is nice to do these dolls. These dolls can have much more expression than a molded doll can have because of the undercuts. Now obviously there's a large undercut there, do you see? Underneath the eye. But that's kind of fun. See the character coming into life there? Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to add the nose. And the nose, there's several ways to make the nose, and I'll show you. You can make a very cute nose, and I'm going to show you this other deal. I'm going to make, this is the bridge. Another little round piece is going to be the nose. Let's get this so you can see it, and I'll put it on the doll so you can see it. Okay, I'm going to make two smaller pieces. They're really sticking to me. It's kind of warm today. We're actually filming this in a patio outside, so if you hear some freeway noises, that is freeway noises. You're not hearing things. I hope you can tolerate that. It's so pleasant out here. It was a nice place to shoot the video. Now, that's going to be a one form of a nose, and I'm going to go ahead and use that form. But first, let me show you another way to do it is actually just make the nose separate from the piece. If you wanted to put a Father Christmas nose on, you just take a little piece of clay and actually make the nose. See? And just put that right, you can see what that would look like, and just put it right on the piece. See? If you wanted to make a big schnoz, Jimmy Durante, I don't know if some of you even remember Jimmy Durante. I'm old enough to remember Jimmy Durante. You can put a big old schnoz on like that and shape it any way you want to shape it. But I think I'm going to put a little cute one on. So what I'm going to do, and this is the same nose that you'd build for a child. Go ahead and you put the bridge on first. And you go ahead and you just fold that in with your tool nicely. And roll that right up into your brow line that you've already made. See? Very natural looking. I'm not going to have you stop the tape. If you'd like to stop the tape, you can, but we won't stop it. Now we'll continue here just to show you. Take the small round piece and put it right on the top there. See? And fold that in. But you fold it in, make sure you keep the roundness in the nose. That's what makes it interesting, see? Don't flatten it out. Do you have that? I'm going to put on my glasses here. I can't see very well without them. It's kind of cute, huh? Okay. And then, now I take it and I come in the front, and I just bring that right down in there on both sides. Okay, see? And then I take the two smaller pieces, and I'm going to make these just a little bit smaller than I did. Make them quite small. Put those on either side. for the nostrils. And then just very, very nicely fold those in on either side, giving the shape to the nose. Now be as expressive as you want to be. You want to put a large nose on for a troll, or a large nose for a witch with a little wart on it. And allow yourself to have fun with this, because that's what this really is. It's just a privilege to be able to make these dolls, and that's why this new material is so nice, because anyone can have a great time. Now, do you see my shape beginning to take place there? Now I want to show you another one I have here that has a large, see this is another one I made earlier, it has a much larger nose. Do you see? This is a Father Christmas character. Gives you some different ideas. So, but let's go back to our piece. So now go ahead and stop the tape and get to that point. My nose while you work yours. Okay, now to make a nostril, this is such an easy way to do it. By taking the end of a paintbrush, little round end, just go ahead and force the nostril and then push it out to the side. Okay, and then just go ahead and then shape your piece in. Okay, and then go ahead and define the nostril. Now, like I say, you make any nose you want to make at this point. This just happens to be the one I'm making. If you want to just work with me, that's fine. All right, so there's our little character with his little stubby little nose. And we'll go ahead and just pinch it, make it kind of a cute little nose to the side, see? So, you can shape it just a little bit more. Okay. Now, how's your doll doing? Close to that? If you'll notice that I've squashed my lips because I've been handling it, that's okay. Just reshape them, smooth out the lips, right? All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of a chin, all right? And that's just a ball, and you can just put any size ball here, and you're just going to smooth that right off to either side. And just fold that all in. Okay. Now what you want to do is everybody, so you see if he has a little chin on him. Now if you'd like, you can add more here, which I'm going to do, just to give a little bit more shape to the jawline. And I'm going to go ahead and fold that in. Now you can make jowls here by putting that on at that point, you know, for an older person. If you want to make a grandpa or an old lady who wears purple, you can do that now at that point. Okay. It's a nice looking little character. Now the thing to do is just smooth everything in. I'm going to pull that nose down a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to take my tools now. I'm going to define. So let's cut away, and what you're going to do now is just define everything that you've done so far. So now we're going to go ahead and detail. Now this is where remember that little brush I talked about earlier? This is a nice way to smooth all of the rough spots out with a stiff brush. See all the areas that are hard to get with your finger or with the tool. Just take that brush and just work it around in there and get all those areas that are nice, and particularly under the nose and on the cheek area. Now we're going to sand and clean up, so you don't have to worry too much about this, but this is a very nice way to shape the clay and get a very smooth look, see? Now, all right. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to add, if you like, and you don't have to do this, but I'm going to go ahead and bring those down just a little bit on his little forehead there. And I'm going to go ahead and add in 2 brows, small pieces. And I'm just going to put them just above this other one, see? You may or may not want to do that if you like the one you have, but it adds another little dimension to the piece. Which you'll see in just a minute as I put that in. Now you don't have to do that if you like the way it looked before. I'm just trying to cover as many bases as I can and to show you some different alternatives to adding the definition. Now again, this is your doll, not my doll, so trust your creativity to have some fun adding things in and playing with things. I'm going to go ahead and just push that down a little bit and fold it in. See? Pull that down closer to the eye, and pull that down closer to the eye. Now that gives me a nice, do you see the lid effect it gives me there? That's kind of interesting. See? Now I'm going to go ahead and just define that brow and fold that in here. Okay? Okay, now I want you to stop now and then work that if you're doing that, and I'll finish what I'm doing. Okay, now all I've done is I've just defined the area above the eye. Now you see what I've done? I have my lid right there and another lid here, and I'm just going to press that in there. I have a very sort of natural look. It's a little extended, but I kind of like that. It's a cute little character we're going to make here, and I want to just make sure that he has nice expression. But you can see the fact that I now have a lid. See the lid here above the eye? Right here. That was that first lid we made. And that's going to define the eye. Okay? Now I've squashed my lip again. We'll get to the mouth in a minute. Now, okay, now we're going to go ahead and put in the under eye. Well, you know what? As a matter of fact, let's not do that. We'll go ahead and do that after we cook this part. So get the upper eye the way you want it. Do you see? Let's go ahead and work the mouth. Now, the nice thing to do with the mouth, and this is the same with porcelain, and I agree with this, is go ahead and extend out the lip just by rolling it with your finger. See? It's very cute, isn't it? And then what you're going to do on the upper lip, just shape the upper lip with your finger. See? He's a funny little character. See how nice he is? Make it real. See how big his cheeks are? He got nice big cheeks. Okay. Now go ahead and I don't even, we keep always asking my class, did anybody know what that little thing is in the top of your lip? I have a mustache, so I can never look at mine anyway. But someone could write me and tell me what that's called. Now, take the lower lip and shape it, and you're going to shape it underneath the upper lip. You see that? And let that upper lip sort of come out and just express itself as longer than the bottom lip. I quite like the look of that. And then we're going to bring this little, somebody will write me and let me know what that's called. I appreciate it. My anatomy is missing. And then what we're going to do, this is a very simple, just go ahead and take your lip and you're going to work it up. See how I did that? It's just going to come up, up, and from the other side, up, up, up. And there's a then just press that into shape. Underneath, just do a little poke. And there's just a real cute little mouth. Now, the same way, just shape underneath the lower lip, giving it definition. See, just bring it right underneath there. Take your finger and shape. I think that's a very, very cute little lip, isn't it? A little, very nice, huh? See? Smile's very apparent, and just bring it up right here. This is the same technique in a smaller way is used for baby's lips, see? And then just smooth all of that out. Right there. Quite nice. Now, we haven't gone underneath the eyes yet. We're going to do that. We're going to shape here in the jawline. We haven't done that yet. And then we'll put the ears on next. So go ahead and work your mouth. See, real cute. All right, and then stop, catch up with that. And then we're going to cook this for 20 minutes to allow those large cheeks to be cooked well enough through. Okay, just shape the mouth. Okay, we'll cut away. You can go ahead and take your hands, which I trust you've taken out of the oven some time ago, and they're cooled off sufficiently. And you can go ahead and take all the rough spots off of the piece and give them a little bit of a sanding. It doesn't hurt. You can flatten out the fingernails a little bit. And just in general, give them a little once over. We're going to go ahead and put the thumbs on. So that's very nice. Again, you can make these as detailed. Now, I often make them very, very detailed, like by simply putting on knuckles. And how you put on, let's blow this all the way. How you put on knuckles is just simply put a small piece of clay, another piece here, a small piece of clay on top of the knuckle. See? And put another small piece of clay on top of that knuckle. And you can get as detailed as you want to get. Let me show you real quickly how that would look in terms of if you wanted to put an old person's hands together. And again, by making the hands smaller and more chubby, as a child's hands. But again, we're talking about, do you see the little knuckle? Look. We're talking about technique more than you doing my doll. You do your own doll. See, now if I just bring that in like that and smooth that in, so you can see that. Do you see? There's a large knuckle. Just smooth that out, and then see how the knuckle stands out in the hand. So that's for an older person's hand. Now I'm not going to do that with this little guy, but anyway, that's the idea. And then the same thing, you just go ahead and sand down both of those, and sand down the little nails so they look natural. Okay, this is a little sanding pad. Any paint store will have this. Just get the fine one. Now, to put on the thumb, again, you're going to get two small pieces exactly the same size. The volume is about the same. And the technique here is just to roll it like a little pear and then flatten it against your finger. See? And you're going to go ahead and put that on the front of the, see? and smooth that in. Probably asking, why do we put the thumb on last? Well, it gives us structure to work with. I was in construction. I was a builder for 20 years, and I think some of that must have worn off on me. And look, there's our little thumb. And look at the nice shape that's hanging down, see? And the same on the other side. Now, be sure that you make the thumbs opposed, that you don't end up with two right hands. And I still do that myself. So we want to make sure that we end up, and again, we're going to put it on the front, see, of the hand, and blend that in. Now, you can get a lot more detailed than this. You can go ahead and add more clay to the palm and put all the palm lines in. You know, you can be as extravagant as you want to be. But for the purposes of showing you the technique, that's the simplest, I think, after the years that I've done it. I think this is the easiest technique. Now, there's the other hand, see? And I can bring that thumb up there a little bit. Look. Okay, there's both of them. Now we're going to go ahead and put a couple little, using our white Fimo again, we'll go ahead and put a couple little fingernails. Excuse me for that. Just coming out of a little cold. All right. And there we have it. Our two hands for our little elf character. Right. So you just put those in the oven and cook those. And then let me just keep those so you can see them. And we'll put those in the oven. So cut away and work on your hands. All right, are we back on? All right. Just put a light sand now to your piece after it's got out, just to smooth out the rough areas. And also to help it here when we finally put our final touches to the doll. Spend a little of attention on the cheeks at this point too. So now, if your cheeks are too flat in here, you can add another little piece of clay. I won't need to with this character, but you can add a little piece of clay right in there to fill in the cheek area if you need to do that. If you want to add, if your person is an older person and you want to put wrinkles in, you can put a little extra skin underneath, like that hanging down. If you wanted to put shoulders on, we'll put shoulders on this one, and I'll show you that in a minute. So now what we have to do is we have to work on our little jawline here. We have to work a little bit underneath the eyes, and we have to work on our ears. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the eyes. And I'll show you a couple things that are kind of interesting to do. If you have a little elf character, or a little troll, or whatever you're making, you can go ahead and put a flat piece right under the eye, like that, and and then go ahead and take your tool and just smooth that all in. And if you wanted to, you can go ahead and put another one right over the top or down low like that, giving it a double edge or double look. And we're not going to do either one of those. We're going to go ahead in this particular case, and I'm going to go ahead and just put a little line underneath the eye, just to give it some shape. See? And a little bit, all I'm making is like little sausages and just rolling them around like that. Now you see? Very human looking. So now I'm just going to take my tool now, my smooth tool, I'm going to go and just work that in. Okay. Now, see, the eyes are nice. I've got a little twinkle to them. Again, you can take your brush, that stiff brush that we used before, and just smooth all of that in with the brush. Smoothing all of that cheek in and giving a nice smooth surface. And just shape the eye. And then you just use your brush here to smooth out that little bit of clay. I have a little bit of feathery business around the eyes on the inside, but that can be taken out after it's the final fire. I can go ahead and smooth all of that in there. I'll try a little bit there. There I go. That's not bad. Now I have a very nice, do you see how nice that looks? Very nice face. All right, now we're going to go ahead and add in the two cheek lines. And that's just basically, we're going to go ahead and put a little piece to give a little bit of a jawline on the sides, which we don't have on both sides. All I'm going to do is just smooth that right in along the jawline, just to give that a little bit of definition there, which I don't have. Now, if you already have a satisfactory jawline because of the piece that you put in for the cheeks, then don't do anything with that. These are just fine-tuning things we can do on the end. I can put more jaw. I could put large jaws if I wanted to put in there. If you wanted to have like a Captain Hook character or a pirate and you wanted a little bit more jaw to show. So you can see how that all just sort of works in very nicely there. The same with the other side. And I'll just smooth all that in. I can take my tool in the little tight spots and just take that all in there. And those tight places also are real good for just that little bit of that stiff brush again. It's a real handy thing to know because it takes all that roughness and can smooth it off and get some of the tight spots that are difficult to get with your fingers. Okay, get back on this camera here for you. And I think that's just fine. There's our character. Now, I must have put my finger in that. Let's just smooth that out again right on the eye. Okay. All right, now for the ear. Now this character, I just want to show you, at this point, if you had a little bit of hair with you, you can see what happens. See, we get our little character there, just to sort of help you along to see that you're not as bad as you thought you were. So now let's go ahead and put an ear on. Now I'm going to show you two simple things to do. If you want to do an elf ear, make a round ball, and this is just a matter of practice. Squeeze it so that one end is small and one end is large. Pull it down with the one finger and flatten it right here, and there's an ear. And the ear is positioned between the mouth and the upper eyebrow on the side. So right about the mouth, or it actually comes right out about the top of the bottom of the nose or upper mouth. So I can put a little ear in, like a little plain ear, like this, and I'll just smooth that in. Make sure that I'm on the... Now, if you notice, I left the part of the ear back here thick, and the reason for that is not for realism, but because it's less likely to break. So if I use a full, thick ear, and not, in fact, the way our own ears are, that ear won't break off if it should happen to fall or press up against the side of a box or being held in somebody's hand. I'm sorry, get back on the screen again. Now, if you want to make an elf ear, obviously the thing to do is just take it and point that ear up. See? And there's a little elf here. In this case, I'll just make it a regular ear. And I'll go ahead and make the other side. Same way, I'm going to pinch it, pull it down one side like that, and stick it right on. I just want to make sure that it's balanced out with the other ear in approximately the same place. By positioning the head, I can see that. And I want to go ahead and just fold that in. Fold's an interesting word. I use that a lot. It sounds like a cooking show, doesn't it? But I didn't say incorporate it in. I just said fold it in. So we're going to smooth it right in here. Remind myself to get back on the screen. And there's our little boy or elf or whatever. I think he's kind of cute. Oh, remind to get back on the screen again. See? Character dolls. Have fun with this. You know, you can make the ears different shapes, or you can make them smaller. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to go ahead. Now, I don't spend a lot of time on detailing the ears. A lot of artists do, and that's a matter of personal preference. I think that porcelain dolls have trained us to be all right with just a small detail. Now you can see the little character. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you the way I do it. It's a very simple format. I simply take my tool and run a circle up like that. I go ahead and run one up like this. Run one down the center like that. You can see that. And that's all I do. And that's a very nicely, it's just enough detail to be attractive. Do the same thing on this side. I come up, come down here and up, and then around to meet the other lower one. And then that's all. But you can look in your own ear or have someone you know sit and pose for you and make it absolutely perfect here. Now, we want to talk about shoulders, so we'll go ahead and put little shoulders on. So this is awful nice when you have a doll because it defines it very nicely when it has clothing on it. So we'll real quickly just make 2 round balls and just go ahead and put them right on your plate the way you have it and just fold that right in. Now you can do a lot more with the anatomy than this if you want. If you want to do a fairy, or I'll try to get back on the screen. If you want to do a fairy piece and you wanted more detail, you can actually produce the chest and abdomen area by increasing the size of this plate. So be careful you don't destroy the other work you've already done, much as I'm doing right now. Okay, and on the other side, just stick it right in and go ahead and pull it down across. You would see underneath here where you don't need to be too neat on the inside as long as it's pushed in. Now this part you don't have to be precise with because it'll be under your costume, but make it as nice as you need to make you're comfortable with. So if you're satisfied, we'll go ahead and we'll put the piece in the oven at 240 degrees for about 45 minutes. And when we come back, we'll start the finishing process. Your doll now. And it's just a matter of taking all the rough edges off of things. And in general, just looking the doll over to find any rough spots. Now this tool I'm using is a dental tool. It's perfect for this because it scrapes and removes rough places rather easily off the side. If you don't have a dental tool, then you can just use an X-Acto knife and do the same thing, but do it very carefully so that you don't gouge or wreck the doll. So I'm just going to show you briefly while I work on my piece. You go ahead and work on your piece. You get all the rough areas off, and then you take your sandpaper, or your sanding block in this case, and go over the whole doll, getting all of the fingerprints and everything off. So you go ahead and sand yours. We'll cut away now, and I'll finish sanding mine. So if you've sanded now and you've worked your piece down, just make it as nice as you want. I want to just show you. This is another piece that I had done earlier, and you can see all the wrinkles and lines. I think this is going to be an older man. I want to show you. This is, even if you make it more wrinkled and everything else, this would make a beautiful Father Christmas. Look here. Can you look? See, so as rough as yours is, or as smooth as yours is, see, it's still wonderful. Look at that look at that for a Father Christmas. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Yeah. So now we're going to work on finish. There's a lot of different ways you can finish. You can take a very inexpensive, come back to me just a second. You can take a very inexpensive makeup, Revlon makeup, and use that on as long as it's an oil-based makeup, and you could rub that on and wipe it off for color and finish. What I'm going to use today is a kind of a product of my own. This is an old porcelain product. This is mineral oil with a little bit of lavender oil and anise. And I'll show you. Come back to the doll here. And we're just going to rub that. Now all that white powdery business that was on there after you sand, I want you to see what happens when we go ahead and work this mixture in the doll, in all the little creases and crannies. Now this material will dry, besides having your doll smell like licorice, which is kind of nice too. And you can rub that all in on the doll. all over. My brush is falling apart. Underneath. Okay. Now, I'll just wipe this off. Put that back with a rag. And I think that this is finish enough. You can also use a little bit plain mineral oil by itself. And okay, now look at, I think that's a very, very nice finish, just all alone. All I'd have to do now is spray a little matte finish on top. But I'll tell you what we're going to do for fun. I'm going to go ahead and use just a little bit of makeup. And I'm going to put a little pink, that oil now, see, that'll pick up a little bit. This is just eyeshadow I'm using. Just to give a little pink highlight to the character on the cheek. Now look at that very natural look. Isn't that wonderful? So we put a little bit down underneath here. See, I could put more, I didn't put any oil back here, but you can just see how nice that looks. Now, we can put a little bit of blue or green above the eye, just to give it a little bit of shadow. See? All right, so now we've taken our little doll and we've used the mineral oil. And I went ahead and I've already done my hands in the oil, and you can see they're sanded also and straightened up. They're nice. Let me just show you, this is a real close-up of the head. I want to just show you, put a little wig on him. You can even paint eyebrows on it, and now you've got a real interesting little character. Can be an elf, can be a little boy or a little girl. You can make it anything you want to have it made. Paint little eyelashes on and eyebrows on, and you've got a finished piece. More of these tapes in the future. We'll be doing a tape on Ceramite, on body structures and lamination. There's much more to come, and I hope that you'll buy those and enjoy those as much as you've enjoyed this, I hope. So on the end of the tape, we'll be showing you some dolls from my sister Paula and my work from Holman and Lennox. And again, thank you very much. It's been a wonderful day.